Alright, so grenades weren't enough for you. There's dreams where you see the waste as a land populated by armored vehicles spitting fire, or is it densely packed companies of soldiers? You really like big over-the-shoulder weapons? Or for those that are afraid of tanks, there is the missile launcher on this episode of Baron's New Vegas Explosive Gun Guides. A returning member from the wastes of DC, the New Vegas missile launcher is a potent weapon following the long-lived tradition of offering the player some version of heavy explosive weapons, whether they be rockets or missiles. In the beginning it was rocket launchers, simple unguided weapons like bazookas. In fact, the one for Fallout 1 and 2 was the Rockwell Big Bazooka, the same Rockwell that made the CZ-53 and 57 miniguns. This big bazooka was a favorite of Master's army and the big gun vault dwellers, and chosen ones, firing both armor-piercing and high-explosive rockets, although the armor-piercing rockets were just better in every way. Now in tactics, the rocket launcher was another Rockwell Big Bazooka, with allegedly a 3-pound trigger pull, but visually it was an RPG-7 of some kind, and then in Brotherhood of Steel, with its early 3D graphics, not turned into sprites, it was a simple tube with handles, but performed the same task of launching damaging rockets at the enemy. Although Brotherhood of Steel also had a homemade one that looked like it would explode immediately. Regardless of the shape and looks, the rocket launcher was a staple of the games for the super mutants and big bots of the wasteland. But with Fallout 3 and New Vegas, and even 4, there was a switch to a missile launcher. Now the difference between the two lies in their guidance. Rockets are simple dumb engines with explosives attached at the end. Simple and effective weapons used mostly and famously in anti-tank weapons like the bazooka and Panzerschreck, which were recoilless rifles that launched rockets with a significant portion of the propellant going backwards to keep the soldier from being blown back and having a melted slag of a weapon. Modern anti-tank rocket launchers like the RPG-7 and Law are basically the same weapons, with more advanced materials and rockets. Although there were countries that still use the bazooka to this day, and obviously the Panzerschreck died with the Germans, but now the modern German army use one called the Panzerfaust III, which is a very modern looking rocket launcher. But despite any advancement with these launchers, they are not guided by anything but fins and good aim. Missiles, on the other hand, are guided, either by a wire which fires from the launcher with the missile and allows an operator to guide it, or by pairing a computer to warhead electronics, allowing the missile to self-guide with IR or radar waves after the initial input from the operator. In theory, the missile launchers do have a capability, but the game simply can't do that without fancy scripting and a mod, although in Fallout 4 they changed that, and in VATS they can see some amount of guidance. Now in Fallout 4 this did change, as they allowed you to put a computer on top of the missile launcher which turned it into a Stinger or Red-Eye missile launcher, using some form of homing technology. As for New Vegas, there is a weapon mod that implies it has a more advanced guidance system, but the missiles are still launched using good aim and fins, and it still hits like a truck. Now damage is a little bit more than grenades, and there is a strange split compared to the 40mm grenade. Each missile can do 125 damage on a direct hit, enough to kill most things outright, although using a missile on a single dude is overkill, while the explosion in the fully patched game does 200 damage in a radius of 1000, which is 33% more than a 40mm grenade and about 11% more than a frag grenade in terms of radius. Now in a future video, that radius will have context, but know that that is a very large blast radius. Now the impact damage does not count as explosive damage, so it only benefits from the Lord Death, Bloody Mess, and Thought You Died perks, to increase the damage, which all impact damage from explosives does. The explosion very obviously benefits from the Demolition Expert, as well as the other perks listed before. Now that makes these perks both doubly effective with the missile launcher, as they affect both the impact and explosive damage, which are very high. As for capacity, it is obviously a single shot weapon, and it does have a 4-second reload by opening the breach, making it a very unique form of missile launcher. It does have a DPS of 325 damage on the first shot, but with the reload it is around 80, but you are stuck reloading for a while. Now VATS mostly bypasses this with a VATS cost of 55, which is actually 65 when you account for the reload, meaning that it has an efficiency of a little bit less than 5.9 damage per AP, which is good or better than most automatics. It has a tighter accuracy of 0.3, much better than other grenade launchers. The best yet, and since it doesn't have the drop of a launcher, it can go until the game just stops it or it hits something. As for aiming, it is a heavy weapon, so you just look a little harder at things, although there are some mods that do add a scope mechanism. For a big gun, it is actually easier to use than the grenade machine gun, at only 75 explosives and 6 strength. So it is a mid-range explosive weapon with slightly higher investment on the skill front, but that only helps improve the damage when you use it. It is heavier than the grenade machine gun at 20 weight, which is certainly too heavy to be relied on as a backup weapon unless you have the heavyweight perk or the strong back perk, potentially both of them, or you really limit your extra outfits, misc items, and aid items. If for some reason you don't pick up the missile launchers that can be found everywhere, they can be bought with a base value of 3,900 caps, and there is a mod for it, only one of them, for 1,500 caps. But it is the missile launcher guidance system which drastically lowers the spread to not much higher than a Gauss rifle at 0.05, better than any heavy weapon or one-handed weapon. And although they can only be shot 245 times with the cost of each missile, it is probably better to get the weapon mod and make sure each one does hit than shoot those things off without certainty. For the price, it is competitive that there are places that the actual missile launcher can be gotten for free. The mod obviously has to be bought. Onto the ammo, which, like the 40mm grenade, the missile is a versatile chassis for a variety of warheads. The standard one is available all over the wastes at only 50 caps per round. It is an active projectile in the word space, meaning it has to travel to the target, and it is fairly slow at 1,550 units per second, which means it takes more than 1 second to travel its total explosion area. To put that in perspective, one tile of a vault is 256 units square. Now for 150 caps, you can get either the high explosive or high velocity missile. The high explosive one is only a little like the 25mm grenade variant at 35% more damage, but weirdly no increase in radius, while the high velocity increases the speed to 5,000 units per second, more than 3 times faster, perfect for somewhat fast moving targets or longer range enemy groups, and absolutely turns the missile launcher into a long range explosive sniper rifle. They are nice to have, as such the sniper rifle is very nice to have, but the hefty price increase can mean affording a stock of them is a little much for some couriers. But if you find a missile launcher, then you can use those 4,000 caps for missiles if you are saving it. And once again, like the grenade machine gun and grenade rifle, there is a unique version of the missile launcher. One of the more interesting inclusions, since no one really thinks of using a missile launcher as a sniper weapon. But the Annabelle is just that. With a spread of 0.02, only double a hunting rifle spread, which is one of the most accurate rifles, this missile launcher does an extra 25 damage on impact for a total of 150. But otherwise it is a very accurate missile launcher with reduced AP costs, down 47 or 57 with the reload included. And on the utility side of it, Annabelle can also be fired more, at 495 shots with 5 pounds dropped of it, and that also means it only has a strength requirement of 5. It can be found in the hands of a Nightkin sniper on Black Mountain. The final obstacle in a gauntlet of super mutants, he can easily catch unaware couriers in his sights and blast them to Kingdom Come. This one launcher can be the only missile launcher you need, with only a rifle or a stealth boy or 2 in order to actually get it. But tackling it too early is a way to easily die, and if you attack while limiting yourself, that's also a way to die. For those that want the basic missile launcher, however, it is almost a common weapon, and in Fallout 3 it is a very common weapon, easy to find and easy to collect them. Super mutants in both games use them, and with 2 locations for hostile super mutants in the Mojave, they can be relatively easily farmed for. But the usual boomers, gunrunners, Daniel at McCarran, and the arms merchant at the 188 trading post can all carry them. Now Vault 34 in the armory has one, since it is the birthplace of the boomers, and heavy troopers for the NCR can carry them. In conclusion, the missile launcher is wielded by the enemies it is best used against. Super mutants that are big and a little slow, but the melee ones do charge you and are usually invisible nightkin. Deathclaws, who can't use missile launchers, do stand out and can be hit for hefty amounts of damage, but usually require 2 or more missiles. Hit squads from the Legion or NCR are really actually the perfect human targets, as you can see them coming and they are always bunched up, so one rocket will either kill or wound all of them pretty severely. While there is no tanks or guidance to speak of in New Vegas, outside of weird VATS shenanigans, the missile launcher is a powerful tool, only overshadowed by the final explosive weapon.